Tensions have been building throughout the day at and around the presidential residence in Yongsan, with speculation that authorities are proceeding with a warrant to detain President Yoon Suk-yeol as early as today. Yoon's legal team protests the execution of the warrant. Police executed a search and seizure warrant this morning as part of their official investigation into Sunday's tragic plane crash at Busan International Airport. All of the 179 victims have now been identified. The government has unveiled its economic policy direction for 2025, forecasting growth of 1.8% this year amid mounting risks at home and abroad. It's 8 p.m. in Seoul, January 2nd, 2025. This is Newscenter. Thank you for joining us for the first episode of Newscenter in 2025. I'm Yoon Jung-min. In the new year, we hope to deliver more inspiring stories and good news. Our top story this evening begins with an unprecedented political event happening here. The mood has been tense throughout the day, with speculation that the authorities could execute an arrest warrant against President Yoon Suk-yeol as early as today over his brief martial law imposition about a month ago. For the latest developments, we have our Kim Jong-sil live on the line. Jong-sil, did the authorities proceed with the warrant?
Tong-mi, they have not. The warrant has not been executed yet. It has been 3 days since the Seoul Western District Court issued the arrest warrant, but the Corruption Investigation Office for High-Ranking Officials, or CIO, has not attempted to enforce it. Reports suggest the CIO is carefully reviewing the situation and timing, but critics argue this delay risks wasting the warrant's validity, which expires on January 6th. And this evening, President Yoon's legal team filed a formal objection with the Seoul Western District Court, challenging both the arrest and the search warrants. At the center of the legal team's objection is the court's unprecedented exclusion of Articles 110 and 111 of the Criminal Procedure Act in the search warrant, provisions typically safeguarding sensitive military or official secrets. While this exclusion has prompted debate over its legal validity, critics argue it has also allowed Yoon's team to divert attention from the central issue of accountability. Despite these objections, experts assert the arrest warrant is valid and enforceable. Professor Chang Yong-soo of Korea University, a constitutional law expert, said the warrant was legitimately issued due to the president's repeated refusal to cooperate.
What happens if the president continues to fight the arrest warrant?
Experts note that enforcing the arrest warrant is not impossible, as its validity remains intact. They emphasize that the arrest warrant alone permits President Yoon's detention, including entering his premises to take him into custody, regardless of the issues tied to the separate search warrant. However, enforcement remains a challenge.
Enforcement is not impossible, and the warrant's validity cannot be entirely dismissed. The arrest warrant itself is legitimate, but potential physical clashes with supporters are another issue.
Now, questions remain about the delay in the arrest of President Yoon, despite the CIO completing its preparations legitimately. Hardline supporters gathered near Yoon's Hannam-dong residence, and coordination issues with police have stalled progress. Critics argue the delay fuels claims of preferential treatment and undermines trust in the justice system. With time running out before the January 6th deadline, the CIO is facing mounting pressure to act decisively. That's all I have for this hour. Back to you, Jung-min.
Thank you, Jung-shi, for the updates. And with the news of the arrest warrant possibly being executed today, this has led to rising tensions near the presidential residence, where rallies have been taking place. We now go live to our reporter Lee Eun-hee, who is there standing by for us. Eun-hee, what's the situation like there?
Good evening, Jungmin. I'm out here near the presidential residence in Hannam-dong Yongsan-gu District, Central Seoul. Even late into the evening, citizen rallies continue, and the situation appears to be growing more intense. Behind me, as you can see, supporters of President Yoon are giving speeches, chanting out slogans, and singing together. They're calling his name, opposing his impeachment, claiming that the declaration of martial law was legal, and demanding the arrest of the main opposition party leader. Reportedly, things gotta be heated here. Some of Yoon's supporters had to be taken to the hospital due to health issues. Also earlier at around 4:30 p.m., the police forcibly dispersed over 30 protesters who have broken through barricades and staged a sit-in at the front gate of the presidential residence, which had been going around since noon. They were trying to block vehicles from entering the presidential residence and carrying out the arrest. In response, the police issued 5 warnings before forcibly dragging them out and grabbing them by their arms and legs due to strong resistance. During this process, 2 individuals were taken into custody. Meanwhile, those opposing the president are also holding rallies, and barricades have been set up to prevent clashes between the 2 opposing groups. Those calling for the president's impeachment are criticizing him, stating that he has shown no remorse for his actions and are demanding his arrest. Tension here at the scene is rising as speculation intensifies that any time now, the execution of the arrest warrant for President Yoon Suk-yeol could proceed.
What is the current police presence like?
Well, I've already seen several heated exchanges between the protesters and police officers, mostly when the police officers were trying to calm them down due to safety reasons. The police have been deployed to the streets and alleys near the presidential residence, and the area in front of the front gate of the main gate is blocked off, restricting civilian access. The entrance to the residence is blocked, and nearby many riot-controlled buses and police vehicles are parked, further strengthening the security presence. So far, there has been no significant movement from the investigators regarding the execution of the warrant for President Yoon Suk-yeol and his arrest. If this changes, additional police forces are expected to prevent any further escalation.
That was our Yoon Hee live from the presidential residence in Central Seoul. The rival parties are clashing over the possible execution of the arrest warrant for President Yoon. The ruling People Power Party on Thursday criticized the court and the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials for issuing and planning to execute the warrant, calling it illegal and politically motivated. The party demanded the court and the CIO stop aligning with, quote, the Democratic Party's manipulation of public opinion. Meanwhile, opposition parties, including the DP, urged CIO investigators to immediately execute the warrant. They called on the Presidential Security Service to cooperate and warned of strong action, including the filing of insurrection charges, if the warrant is not properly respected and allowed to be enforced. The Constitutional Court is holding its second pre-trial hearing tomorrow, Friday, and this upcoming event will take place in the presence of 8 justices, given the recent filling of the 2 of the 3 vacancies. Our correspondent Woo Soo-young reports.
President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment trial proceedings will continue with the second preparation hearing taking place this Friday. Judges will once again attempt to lay out the main grounds for his impeachment and a working list of evidence and witnesses each side would like to present throughout the trial. At the first hearing last Friday, the National Assembly's impeachment panel set out 4 to 5 grounds in their move to remove Yoon from office. It applied for 15 witnesses, including key figures under investigation suspected of being involved in the martial law order, such as former Defense Minister Kim Yong-yeon. Yoon's team, however, had not submitted any materials. But his lawyers seemed to contest the grounds for impeachment, saying they were based on media reports, as well as the court's method of delivering official papers to notify Yoon of the trial. The president had refused to accept the delivery at his residence and office in Central Seoul. Thus, amid concerns that Yoon's legal team will employ delaying tactics to prolong the trial, it remains to be seen how cooperative the team will be in the preparatory hearing.
Still, Yoon's trial is expected to pick up pace as the Constitutional Court now has 8 justices, one short of a full panel, but still the same number as when former President Park Geun-hye was impeached in 2017.
The initial panel would have needed to vote unanimously for impeachment, as at least 6 justices need to uphold the ruling under the 2/3 majority rule. The court held an inauguration ceremony for the 2 new justices, Cho Han-chang and Chung Kye-sun, on Thursday. Beginning his tenure, Justice Cho vowed to always reflect on what it means to ensure the dignity and value of humanity, and how the protection of basic rights through the rule of law should be realized in defending liberal democratic order. Justice Chung says she will strive to be a reliable member of the court that earns the trust of the people. Their 6-year terms will end on the last day of December 2030. Now, with 1 judicial vacancy, the court said Thursday that it continues to call for a swift appointment to complete its panel. Acting President Choi Sang-mok has said he will fill the remaining seat after bipartisan agreement is reached in Parliament. Also, with investigative authorities closing in to detain Yoon for questioning on insurrection charges, the Constitutional Court says it will conduct a procedural review of the case, including the President's request for the court's adjudication and an injunction to challenge the arrest warrant. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Turning to the latest on Sunday's tragic plane crash. Authorities have officially launched an investigation into the accident at Busan International Airport, with a search and seizure warrant in execution starting today. Kim Do-yeon has more.
Police on Thursday morning executed a search and seizure warrant for their investigation into the Jeju Airline crash. 3 locations are listed on the warrant: offices at Muan International Airport, the Muan branch office of the Busan Regional Office of Aviation, and the Seoul office of Jeju Air. The charge indicated on the warrant is death and injury by occupational negligence, but a specific alleged suspect is yet to be named. Until now, police invested time in identifying the remains of the victims, but all 179 have now been identified. Now the investigation team is steering towards finding the reasons behind the tragedy, including aircraft operations and maintenance. At the same time, the government's Aviation and Railway Accident Investigation Board and experts from the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board and Boeing have opened an office at Muan International Airport to investigate the crash as well. According to the Transportation Ministry, the conversion of recorded data from the aircraft's cockpit voice recorder into audio format has been finished, which is earlier than expected, and the data will be transferred to the U.S. to be looked at. The ministry assured that investigation results will be transparent.
Additionally, there are concerns that the investigation might yield biased results since it is being conducted in the United States. However, as I mentioned yesterday, investigators from South Korea's Accident Investigation Committee will be participating in the investigation as well.
Earlier in the day, Acting President and Deputy Prime Minister Choi Sang-mok also addressed the crash issues. Apart from further safety checks across the nation for aircraft and airport operations, he addressed concerns over protecting the victims and their families.
According to media reports, indiscriminate posts, malicious comments, false and manipulated information, and provocative videos about the victims and their families are being shared on social media. We earnestly ask everyone to refrain from actions that cause pain to the bereaved families and other well-meaning individuals involved.
He called on law enforcement authorities to monitor the situation and that there will be legal repercussions for those who commit such malicious actions. As for honoring the victims, the first burial of a victim was held early Thursday morning, with more victims leaving for their resting places throughout the day. So far, a total of 30 of the victims have been transferred to their families. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
With the start of 2025, the government today announced its new economic policy plans. A key focus is on stabilizing the economy amid both external and internal uncertainties. Our economics correspondent Lee Soo-jin joins us here. Soo-jin, what does the government think the economy will look like this year?
Right, so as we saw earlier, South Korea is currently going through a turbulent period with the ongoing impeachment trial of President Yoon, as well as none other than Finance Minister Choi Sang-mo being appointed as acting president. And this week is also a national mourning period for the Jeju airplane crash. The crash, which happened on Sunday morning, is also why the release of economic policy plans for this year, originally scheduled for Monday, was pushed back to today. This is why it comes as no surprise that the government is anticipating that people's livelihoods will continue to face difficulties as downside risks to the economy grow due to both external and domestic uncertainties. External risks that the government is monitoring include the implementation of tariffs that may target South Korea's exports, with the inauguration of U.S. President Donald Trump, as tariffs from his previous administration imposed financial pressure on key industries. And as shifts in trade policies are expected, the government is also aware that this will also have a broader impact on supply chains. While domestic demand, which the state-run Korea Development Bank think tank has assessed as weak for more than a year now, is expected to see some improvement, export growth is expected to slow. And people are expected to continue feeling that the economy is sluggish due to the ongoing political turmoil, despite the downward trend in consumer prices. With this assessment, the government is projecting the economy to grow only 1.8% in 2025 compared to 2.1% growth in 2024.
Will the new economic policy plans mitigate these concerns?
So just like you mentioned earlier, the overarching theme for this year's economic policy plans is to ensure that the economy remains stable despite the external and internal factors. So the policies are focused on 4 key areas: revitalizing people's livelihoods, managing external credibility, responding to trade uncertainties, and strengthening industrial competitiveness. Here's what Acting President and Finance Minister Choi Sang-mo had to say earlier today.
The growth rate is expected to decline to around 1.8%, exacerbating challenges for livelihoods and raising concerns about external creditworthiness. As such, the government has drafted the 2025 economic policy plan with the goal of stabilizing the economy.
To improve livelihoods, the government will allocate 70% of 85 trillion won, or nearly $60 billion and the largest ever, to be allocated in the first half of the year to fund various projects that include helping young adults who are seeking employment, lowering grocery prices, and supporting small business owners. Nearly $8 billion will be spent on lowering livelihood costs by providing discounts for agricultural and livestock products and energy vouchers. The government is also focusing on maintaining external credibility by providing more than $130 million in cash subsidies in the first half of the year to encourage foreign investment. The acting president also said the government will continue to work towards making sure that Korea's WGBI inclusion and the corporate value program are carried out without setbacks.
And what are plans for trade and industries?
Right, so as we talked about before, the external factors are imposing as much significant challenge to the nation's economy as internal factors. With one of them being the incoming Trump administration, the government is planning to hold meetings with both the economic and foreign affairs ministers. And as there is concerns about a slowdown in exports, nearly $2 billion will be allocated to support them. Corporate tax and value-added tax benefits will also be provided for export-oriented SMEs. In order to maintain industrial competitiveness amid various external uncertainties, the government will support the enactment of the Special Semiconductor Act, which seeks to strengthen global competitiveness by exempting R&D employees from the 52-hour workweek restriction and allowing direct government subsidies for chip companies during the initial investment stages. As part of efforts to become one of the top 3 leading countries in the AI industry, the government plans to set up a national AI computing center and release an outline for developing and attracting AI talent in the first half of the year.
All right, we will keep a close eye on those policies. Thanks for the report.
Thank you for having me.
Israeli airstrikes killed at least 20 Palestinians throughout the Gaza Strip early on New Year's Day. Meantime, hypothermia and winter rainstorms are worsening the situation in Gaza. Cha Yun-kyung has the latest.
More than 20 Palestinians, including women and children, were killed throughout Gaza on New Year's Day. One strike hit a home in the Jabalia area of northern Gaza, where Israel has been waging a major operation since early October, killing 15 according to Gaza's Civil Defense Agency. A local resident said that a wall of his neighborhood collapsed onto his house due to the early morning attack. Israeli troops also attacked southern Gaza's Khan Yunis, killing at least 3 people. Israel said the airstrike was aimed at preventing the regrouping of Hamas. However, there has been continuous damage to civilian institutions such as hospitals. At the end of last year, the Israeli army was highly criticized for raiding Kamal Adwan Hospital in northern Gaza and arresting around 240 hospital staff.
These atrocities need to end. Around me is nothing but rubble and destruction.
According to the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital, another strike overnight on the Bureau's refugee camp in central Gaza killed a woman and a child. Hundreds of people who live in tents are defenseless as winter brings frequent rainstorms and the temperature drops at night. At least 7 children have died of hypothermia over the week, according to the health ministry run by Hamas. A spokesman for the Palestinian Civil Defense in Gaza, Mahmoud Bassar, said the world is celebrating New Year while residents in Palestine suffer from the pain of war. Cha Yun-kyung, Arirang News.
In other news, the U.S. is reeling in the aftermath of an appalling attack in the city of New Orleans that has killed 15 people and injured dozens of others, just 3 hours after the country ushered in the new year. Lee Seung-jae has the details.
Bourbon Street, located at the heart of the French Quarters in New Orleans, was particularly crowded due to New Year celebrations and college football's Sugar Bowl between the University of Notre Dame and the University of Georgia, set to take place later Wednesday evening. However, the scene quickly turned into chaos when a driver drove a truck up the street, crashing into pedestrians, killing at least 15 people and leaving dozens more injured. The suspect, who was shot by police officers, was found to have an ISIS flag in the vehicle at the time of the attack. Calling it an act of terrorism, the FBI says it's investigating potential links with terrorist organizations. The FBI also said the driver may not have been solely responsible for the attack, as improvised explosive devices were found in the vehicle as well. IEDs were also discovered on Bourbon Street with video footage showing 3 men and a woman who may have been involved in placing the devices. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump took to his social media platform Truth Social on Wednesday to blame illegal immigrants for the attack before the suspect was identified by authorities as 42-year-old Shamsud Din-Jabbar, an Army veteran and U.S. citizen from Texas. The annual football game was postponed for safety reasons. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
It was not severely cold this morning in Seoul at -2.8 degrees Celsius. However, the capital is expected to drop to -5 degrees tomorrow morning. With the cold winds moving south, the temperatures will plummet across the country tomorrow. Meanwhile, East Coast areas are under dry weather warnings. Since the atmosphere in the Seoul metropolitan area and the Gyeongsang-do provinces is drying up as well, please be careful of wildfires. Tomorrow, Chuncheon will start off at -10 degrees, Daegu -3 degrees. Highs will move up to 2 degrees in Seoul, Daejeon, Gwangju, and Gyeongju 4 degrees. Rain or snow is forecast in the central parts of the country from early morning on Sunday. The amount of snowfall can be a lot this time, so please be prepared. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world. We wish you a happy new year.
that is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session up next.